the babies in the team. The baby. It's what's it called? It's not how it feels, but you go to the other classroom to learn about stuff there.
Yeah, and I went to the other.
You go to Mr. Super. He's so smart. He has a fighting sport.
Okay.
Why? You know, I think other guys 4 years old, because 4-year-olds have different times to everything.
All right, guys. Okay, we're gonna get started for today. Guys. Okay. So last time we had fun with swapping with chairs and fun stuff. Unfortunately, this is going to be a little bit less fun. We're going to talk about back to kind of arrays a little bit. We're going to do double arrays really quick just to cover them, and then we're going to be able to move on and talk about some nested loops again really quick. And yeah. And we're going to kind of preface a couple of the subjects that we're going to talk about before the first programming assignment, which will come up on Friday. So, when we talked about arrays before, we used the bracket, and we gave it a location. So, for example,
What?
So, for creating our thing with, we have our arrays of numbers. So sometimes we want to store like two-dimensional information more than just kind of one thing. So there are times where, like for example, when we talk about coordinates in math, we talk about like a coordinate x, y. And so there's a convenient way to store that information, and we have what's called a double array or nested array. It kind of has a couple different names. So what that is an array of arrays, which sounds a little bit meta. But so what it is basically instead of having one array, imagine an array, and each one points to another array that goes vertically down, I guess. We want to imagine the array is going horizontally. So, really quick, whoops. So if you want to create these arrays, what you do is, we're going to go like this, and we're going to give it a name, like graph, new int, and we're going to give it we're going to make it a 5 by 5. Okay? So now that we do this, what we get is we can now access kind of basically information in 2 dimensions. We give it like an x and a y, and it'll give us back information at that exact location. So there's a couple things that we're going to do really quick, some code writing. So really quick, create this graph, make it a 5 by 5. Write 2 lines of code really quick. What you want to do is you want to try to access one of the arrays itself. So specify one location, and then on the second time specify both locations. Oh, do I get a chair back?
You do get a chair back. I saw it from Edward.
Oh, perfect.
Just get down 50 push-ups.
This still was perfect.
What? That's racist. That's pretty good. That's racist.
Okay, so here's a little bit of the code for accessing the graph. So if you remember before, you tried printing out a graph, an array before. You got this a bunch of gibberish. So if you pick a specific one, you can imagine as you pick one of the arrays that you want to look at first. So I picked the second one. I get a bunch of gibberish if I were to look at just an array in general. Then I decided I wanted a specific point. I wanted to go into the first array and access the very last element. And then it gives me the information at that location. Okay? So this is kind of a little bit of the same thing. Kind of printing out these values. So really quick, we're going to do a little bit of a program for taking in, we're going to change some values. So keep the graph from before. What you want to do, try changing a few of these values. So right now, because we said it was a new graph, it's all full of zeros. So try changing a couple values in it. So pick specific points, like in the first graph, maybe at the second point, in the very last, the fifth graph at the third point. So try changing some values in it. Try assigning locations of value. Okay, a value that's not zero.
Sorry, Father, is there anyone here named Sahash?
Right.
Yes? No? Okay.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna go over really quick how to set it up. So if we have our current one, the way you can change it is you give it the name, and you're gonna give it two locations. So I'm gonna pick that very first one. I'm gonna give it the fourth element, and I'm gonna give it the value 42. If I wanted to assign maybe the fourth one at the very second element, I can give it like 16. Now if I wanted to print those elements out, it's system.out.println, and I'm going to print out the graph, Oops. At location, let's go with 4, 1. And we can run this. And we'll get out my 16. Printed out below. I'll delete these. So we get our 16 printed out, the zeros from before. So are we clear about that one? Kind of makes sense. We have 2 arrays. So we're gonna add another one. So let's say I want to do 3-dimensional arrays. This is currently 2-dimensional. Oops. What if I want to do a 3-dimensional array? So I'll just reminder here's, whoops. So I'll call this 1D. So if we have our 1D, this is 2D. What would a 3-dimensional array look like? This is what this is what 1 looks like, just for a reminder. This is what 2. What would 3 look like? So we're going to do 3 is basically the same concept, just add a couple more. Whoops, add that equal sign. So we can give it some lengths. Let's go 5, 5, 5. So as you can see, you can add pretty much any amount of these that you need. Most of the time you'll use 1, every once in a while you'll use 2, very, very, very rarely you use 3, and if you're using 4, I'm sorry. So we're gonna do a couple more with these really quick. So this kind of actually, so we're gonna move on to actually the nested loop. So what happens if I wanted to print out every value in my array? Okay. Just in my 2D one for this. So in my 1-dimensional array, if I wanted to print out every value, I usually used a loop. If I wanted to print out every value in my 2-dimensional array, what would I do? Anyone have any ideas? Low energy Mondays. New. Okay, so for our 2-dimensional, so for the 1-dimensional array, we did a for loop. So we did this right here, and we printed it out, and we used the loop each time. And we accessed it with our accessor, and we gave it the loop counter to get through. So with that, with the 2-dimensional array, we're going to do something similar. So we're going to do what's called a nested loop. So a nested loop is a loop inside of a loop, basically. And we're going to say for, make a new one. And then we can print it out. Okay, so I'll delete the 1-dimensional one from above. just so you can look at it. So basically what's happening here is we're gonna jump into the first loop, and then we run all the code within the braces. So then we jump into the second loop, and we're gonna do all the code in here. Once we finish all of this for loop, we jump back out and we increment this once. Okay? So basically if I were to run this, do you guys know how many times this print statement will be executed? Just a reminder that 2d.length is 5. How many times is this print statement going to run? In this code right here. Anyone? 6 times? Anyone else? 6? Agreed upon answer? So this is gonna run 25 times actually. So it'll run 5 times the first time when in this loop. Then this loop will run all the code inside of it 5 times. So this loop runs 5 times, and then it'll execute this whole block of code right here 5 times. So it'll run 25 times. So for thinking about like how this code works, basically we have an I and a j. We have I is currently, so when we start with the code, we have I equals 0. We start in, we have our length. Then we jump into the next line of code. We create j as well. Then we print out the location ij, which is currently 0, 0. Then we increment j because we finished the loop, this part of the loop. We jump back up, we increment j from 0 to 1. Then we print out 0, 1 because that's ij. Okay? Then we get to the end, we increment j, it goes to 2. Then we print out 0, 2. Then we increment again, we print out 0, 3, we increment again, it's 0, 4, and then finally we print out the location 0, 4, and then we increment to 5. Then 5 is equal to 5, which is 2d.length. So then we exit out of this. We're back at I. We're not talking about j anymore. I goes from 0 to 1, and now we get 5 more executions of j each time. So any code within, these are called nested loops, runs this times that amount of times. Okay? So sometimes they're equal, sometimes they're not. It's important to check which numbers, which number this is comparing against. So right now these are the same because I'm comparing against the length, the same number each time. You can compare j against I, for example, and we'll do an exercise on that. So I'm going to give you an array of 2D array of values, and you're going to want to print them out. So we're going to go over here. So if you want to make a 2D array of values, first I'm going to create an array, the starting array part. Then I'm going to create one. I'm going to give it the values 2, 4, and 6. Then I'm going to add another array, and I'm going to give it the values 1, 3, 5. I'm going to create a third one. Whoops. Just a comma. Okay. And then I'm going to create another one that's 5, maybe multiples of 5. And then I'm going to create one last one that is maybe, oh, I missed a comma again. Whoops. Then I'll make it 21, 22, 63. Okay, so if I gave you that, I want you to print out this whole thing. You want to use nested loops. It's currently got some numbers. So you want to use 2. You're going to want to use nested loops to do this. And remember what I just talked about, where you access it with that I comma j into loops. So make sure to think about that. So I just want to see you print this out, basically. So copy down these numbers and then you're good to go. Then raise your hands when you got it, okay?
What?
Yeah. Print the values here.
Raise your hand and you copy it.
So, yeah, print all the values here. So the format that you probably want to do is like 2, 4, 6, 1, 3, 5. Oops, can't type.
Wait, it doesn't show you anything.
So you're going to want to print it kind of like this. And then what's that last? 21, 21, 42, 69. Print it just looking like this, okay?
That's easy. Surprised. Give up and you question life.
You can always ask a question.
Or give up. We don't do that. You have two options. We don't do this.
So remember, use the multiple for loops.
Math. I know you said math. Where these things what's called math? What are you doing? Perfect. I know what you're doing. No, you don't judge me. Just adding random just see the brook. I barely. It's the volume. Oh yeah. Hey guys. Handbars.
Here, I'll give a bit of a hint.
You need to type that word. Huh? You should type the numbers below. You haven't even typed that, isn't it? I did that. The computer doesn't like it. Wait.
Oh no. Wait.
Oh, I'm smart. Yeah, I know you are. Put the oh, I call it a ear picture.
Okay. I don't get this point. It's really interesting.
Ow. Boy, that's only the first one. No, don't say that. You're wrong. Ow. You hurt my leg. Let's just can you stop now? You went too far. What are you saying? Oh, I realized. Do you have like a big statistic? What are you doing? You said that. Stop. Dude. Stop. No, that's right. What do you want?
Anyone getting closer? Thinking?
I got the first already.
No, because this is how to have a nice little hint. Print it all out.
Okay.
That doesn't tell us.
That helps a lot. Figure out G1.
You just got me G1.
Let's leave G1 from now.
Remember, this is what it'll look like when you print it out from here. So the thing you probably want to notice is every array is on its own line. So after you're done printing out the contents of each array, you want a new line. So that's what this is right here. You want to print out every value. Each array happens to be the same length. I want to put it in right here.
My brain just
What did I do?
I don't know.
I printed a random number from That's that I killed.
This time. This time's the omniverse. Omniverse. So it's a universe that can
There's only two things left for this. Two things to type.
give up or keep on going?
Two things. There's two singular letters to type.
He's from 62. Vegetation. Final answer.
That's your final answer.
Why do things like still hot goat, sheep, and lamb?
What? What?
Wow, I am so successful. So successful that I got 25 givers.
What did I do?
What is that?
It means
I can't see.
What is this? I got only like.
Yes.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Wait, I printed 1,
What are we
5,
doing?
10.
You're printing all the numbers from the array, 2D array that I gave.
But once.
How come it's just not work? What the heck did I do?
Hey, language. Oh my god.
According to you,
What do you say?
according to you,
Fire truck? Roy, I hate this so much. This doesn't hold it at all. This one.
yeah, I can have so many lives, so.
Two letters. Close. Anyone?
God, I really suck. I'm gonna die.
You're gonna what?
Die. Oh, I just realized something that I did wrong.
Interesting. Tell me more. Would you like some ice cream?
Okay.
Don't take any ice cream for this one. Never. Oh wait, okay.
I don't know what I'm doing.
And just
Doing. But I have to see doing. I'm so confused.
what?
There you go. So,
You don't have to put anything in the oven?
Wait, what are you doing with my life?
so here's how you can print it out. So here's how you can print all the numbers out. Remember I said nested loops? Same. So the important thing to remember is I need to print out these numbers up here. Each one is on its own set. So I wanted to print out 2, 4, 6, and then on a new line 1, 3, 5, and then on a new line 5, 10, 15, on a new line, and then 21, 42, and 63. So what you want to do? Remember, so that's 3. Those are 3. Like the array length is 3, and then there's 4 of them. So what you wanted? So hey guys, come on. So basically, we've got our 0 through 3 on the inner loop because, like I said, this will go through all of the arrays, and then this will go through every specific array, every value in it. So on this inner one, it prints out. Remember, I starts at 0, and then we started checking it against the length of it, which is 4. Then we go into the second loop right here, and we're on j equals 0. J is less than 3. So what we do is we print out I0, J0, then we print out a space. This part of the code finishes with the loop. Then we increment J from 0 to 1. So then now J is 1, we check if it's less than 3. It's not, so we print out I, which is still 0, and then J, which is now 1 in a space. So when we go back up again, we have J now equal, it's incremented from 1 to 2. So J is still less than 3. So we print out I0, J3, or sorry, I0, J2. And then we print out a space. Then we go back up, we increment J from 2 to 3. Then since J is equal to 3 now and J is not less than 3, we go down here and we print out a new line, which means to go to the next line. Then we go back all the way up, we increment I from 0 to 1. Now that I is 1, we jump in here. We create another J again, it's equal to 0. We check if it's less than 3, which it is. Then we print out I, which is now 1, and then J 0, which gives us that 1 in our console. Then we end that, we go back up, J goes from 0 to 1, it's incremented. And then we go down here, we print it out. We print out 1, 1 for our IJ. Then we increment it from 1 to 2. So now J is still less than 3. We print out 1, 3. And then we increment J from 2 to 3. Then at that point, J is again equal to 3. So we go down here, we print out the new line. We jump all the way back up again. I was now 1. We're going to increment it from 1 to 2. We jump back in here again. We create another J. It's equal to 0. It's less than 3. Then we print it out. We print out our I is 2. J is now 0 again. So we print out 2, 0 in this space. We increment J from 0 to 1. Then we're going to print out 2, 1 in this space. Then we increment it again. For 2, we print out 2, 2, etc., etc. Okay? So what was not clear? Guys, what was not clear about this then? Like, what wasn't clear about the nested loops? Why they run as many times as they do? Is that not clear? No? Yes? Guys, what was not clear about the nested loops? I am interested, because all of it, some of it, the original loop.
That's a runtime error.
Run for this
Error for
This is our array up here.
did you change J is less than 3?
Okay, here. What's another? Okay, so we'll do something similar. Let's print out this box of zeros, okay? So it's pretty similar. It's a nice square of zeros. Okay. Would it printing them all out on one line help make it easier? Printing every single number in the every single zero? Okay, actually, here I have a. Let's do this. Okay, so. Where is this? Okay, how many times does this print out high? Or if you want, if you want, you can go type the code out and run it. Okay, how many times does this print out high? I'll fix this really quick. Any other answers? 10? Stand up. 10? Still okay. Consensus on 10? Agreement? 10 then? Okay, we're gonna run it really quick. Okay, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. 10 highs. Okay? I'm gonna change it. Now how many times? How many times does it run now?
5.
5?
8.
8? 5? Okay. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 times. Okay. How many times does this run now? How many times does it print? 0. Okay. What are you confused about?
How do you know if it's like 1, 2, or like 0 stuff?
How do you know how many times it's going to print it? That's the point of the question. So you want to look at how many times it's going to get to that print statement. Okay? You're looking for when it can get there. So there's a number and a comparison, then another number and another comparison. And both of these have to be true to print that out. Okay? So remember, these are loops. They print out things multiple times. Okay? So, show it off. This will print it out 0 times. So the reason for that is there's I is 0, it's less than 2. So that means any of the code between these braces right here will run twice. Inside of that, we're going to compare. We say, is j greater than 2? J is never greater than 2 because we assigned the value 0. So this twice we'll check the condition, say it's false, and we'll never print anything. Okay? So we'll do one more. How many times will this run? How many times will it print out high? Anyone? How many times will it print out high? 0? Okay, yep. Same thing. Prove it again. 0. So again, it'll run this loop this upper loop will run 4 times. It'll run all the code right here 4 times. Inside of here, it starts at 3. And then it says right here, for example, J is less than 8 is always false. It'll tell me right now. So I'm going to change it now. And how many times does it run now? So remember, this outer, we haven't changed the outer loop. That runs 4 times. It runs this code right in here 4 times. So how many times is it going to run this right here?
Twenty.
20, 30? 2 answers. 20. Anyone else? Answers? 20, 30? Seems there's some consensus on 20. If you're not sure, you can always run the code. So this, I'm not going to count all the highs, but it's going to print this out 20 times. So remember, it's going to run this code this 4 times. It's going to run the code inside of this brace right here 5 times. So because it'll print it out at 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. It'll print it out 5 times the first time, and it'll do that 4 times in a row. So it'll do 20 prints of hello. Is there anything unclear about how the nested loops print out things? Why it was 0 sometimes and not the other times? So let's. Okay, so we'll do one more really quick. Okay. So how many stars does it print out? Here, we'll ignore this one. How many stars does this print out? So remember, it's J is less than I.
0.
0 stars?
1, 2, 3.
How many stars? So I'll read the loops. I equals 0, it's less than 4. J equals 0, it's less than I.
No, it's 4.
It's 4. It's just 4, right? 4 is 4. It's 4. Should be 4.
No, wait. Six.
6. Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4.
No, wait, it's 4.
Sixteen. 4, 16. Anyone? How many stars? 0, 16.
It's 6.
Very loud.
It's 1, 2, 6. I ran the code.
16. 4. Okay.
Just run the code at 6.
So I'll talk through the first part of it just to get an idea. So it's important, remember, to keep track of our variables I and j. So we create I. It has a value of 0.
Oh, wait, that was right.
Then we create j. It has a value of 0. We say, is j less than I? 0 is not less than 0. 0 is equal to 0. So we don't do anything. So we finished that part of that for loop with j. We go back up to I code. We increment I from 0 to 1, and then we go into the loop because I is less than 4. It's currently 1. Now we create the variable j again. J is equal to 0. We say is j less than I? Is 0 is less than 1. So we print out 1 star so far. Okay. We increment j from 0 to 1. Then we say is 1 less than 1? 1 is not less than 1. 1 is equal to 1. So we finish that for loop again. We go back up to the I. It's currently 1. We increment it to 2. 2 is less than 4. So we jump into the inner loop. We create j again with the value of 0. We say is 0 less than 2? It is. We print out another one. We're at 2 stars now. We increment j from 0 to 1. We say is 1 less than j, or is 1 less than I, sorry, and 1 is less than 2. So we print out another star. We're at 3 stars. We increment j from 1 to 2. Then we say is j less than I? Nope, 2 is equal to 2. So we finish the loop again. I is incremented from 2 to 3. So 3 is less than 4, so we can jump into the inner loop. We say j equals 0. Is 0 less than 3? It is. So to speed this up, you're going to get 0 stars on the first run, 1 on the second, 2 on the third, and 3 on the fourth, so you get 6 stars total. Okay? So if you want to imagine this a little differently, oops. So I'm going to put all the stars on a new line each time. Just so you can get a little bit of perspective of what it looks like. So on the very first run, we printed out nothing because that loop didn't execute at all. Because remember, it was 0 and 0 is not less than 0. So we printed out a blank line. Then the next time through the loop, we printed out 1 star. This next time through the loop, printed out 2, and the next time we printed out 3. So that's how you get 6. Okay. So we're going to do one little bit different thing. So I'm going to change this from j to I. Okay. Small change. Now every time I go through the inner loop, I increment I. Okay. How many stars does it print? This will be a little different.
Infinite? It's always going to be so infinite.
No.
Infinite?
No, like an infinite. No, because I got like a bunch of odds that keeps me free. Jason stays at 0. See? So Jason stays at 2, and I think I keep using because it's always going to be like that.
Infinite stars? Agreement? Somewhat? Consensus?
10. Okay, I'm going to cancel it before it goes.
Infinite stars then?
Yeah.
You are... Yep. You're right. Yep. And we get a never-ending stream of stars. Till I force cancel the program. That is. So, why does this happen? The important thing is to remember where the print statement is and what condition needs to be met for the loop to continue. So, on the first time through the loop, I is 0, it's less than 4. So we jump in, we create j, we say is j less than I? It's not. J is equal to I. So we skip out, we print a new line, and then we start on I, we increment I. So I equals 1. We finish the loop, we increment I again. I now equals 2. Now we create our j equals 0. We say is j is 0 less than 2? It is. And then we finish that, we keep printing, and then we continually increment I when j is always 0 and I will continuously increase. Okay? So what is there anything unclear about how that runs? I will continually increase, and j is always 0, so the condition j is less than I will be true forever. Okay. Alright, we're gonna do one more.
Still happening.
Let's do okay, so we're gonna do some more of these. Alright, so we have I equals 0, I is less than 3, and we have j equals I, and then j is less than 7. How many stars does it print? And what does it look like?
Just 0, 3, 9, no. 21.
So just a reminder, the outer loop is going to run 3 times. And then we have this inner loop where each time it assigns it to whatever I is when it starts. So the first time in, j equals I and I would be 0. The second time into the loop, j would equal I and I would be 1. And the third time in, j would equal I and j would be 2. 21.
Three times. Oh, 18. Not 20. Jesus and 7. 7 includes 7.
Would making it less than 7 make it easier to think about, or? No.
I think no, it's 6 times. No, it's 18. No, it's not 6 times. It's not 7. 27?
Anyone thinking about it still? Got an answer? 18, 21?
I think it's 18.
18 and 21? Are you ready then? 18, 21, 2 answers? Okay, so I'll talk through the first part, the part of it first. So we have I equals 0, I is less than 3, which is an okay condition to start. We assign j the value of I, so j now also has the value of 0. So we're going to run that from 0 to 7, so it's going to print out 7 stars in the inner loop. We're going to print out a new line. We increment I from 0 to 1. Then we assign j the value I. So j will get 1. It will run 1 to 7. We'll get 6 more prints of the star. So we're going to get 13 at this point. Then we're going to print out that new line. And then we're going in from I equals 1 to I equals 2. Then we have j equals I. J equals 2 then. 2 to 7 is another 5. So we get 13 plus 5 for 18 total stars. Okay? If you really are, it'll print them out like this. So we get 5 below, then we have 6, and then we have 7. 7 plus 6 plus 5, 18. Everyone kind of figuring this out now? Thinking about it more?
Wait, I don't get why it's 18.
Why it's 18? So remember at the start of the inner loop, every time it'll print out, no matter what wherever we start the inner loop, it depends on I. So we know it's not going to be consistent the amount of time, because I changes each time you go into the loop. So on that very first time through, I is 0, and then so we're basically in the code, we're like right here, we haven't got to the next loop, but we know I is 0, and we know it's less than 3. So then we go down onto this line, we create j, we give it the value of I, which is currently 0, and we're going to go up to 7. So j will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. where that'll be true, and it'll print out star. So that's 7 stars. Then j will increment to 7 at that point, and 7 will be equal to 7. Then now I is 0. We're incrementing it because we have to increment it, remember? So now I is 1. So we're going to create j again. We're going to give j the value of I. So j now starts at 1. And again, it's going to go up to 7 now. Remember, last time it started at 0. And this time it's starting at 1. So now it'll print at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 for 6 iterations. So that's why it goes from 7 to 6 to 5. Okay? And this is a little bit weird. We're going to do a couple, maybe, we'll do one more of these, okay? Okay, so think about this one. What are we going to get on this one? You don't have to give me the exact output. Just kind of think through the star. Remember, the star is printed out the same. All I did was add this other loop that prints out O's now, as well as stars. Okay.
54.
54?
54.
54 what?
54 stars.
54 stars?
Wait.
The thing below prints out O's. This doesn't print out stars.
Oh, then, wait. 18 stars. And then, 36 zeros.
36 O's? Remember, Q goes up to I. Just a reminder. Think about that.
What?
I just go with that.
No, don't do that.
Is 9 O's?
9 O's?
Isn't it 9 O's? 3 O's, 9 O's? 9 O's?
74.5.
74.5 O's? Pretty sure you can't print out half an O.
It's called a parenthesis.
He says it's 36.
Hey, I didn't say. Why are you doing this to me? Be original.
I'm so confused.
It's okay to be confused. You're still learning how to do this.
So, people at our close table. No answers so far. How many stars? How many O's? Stars are still the same. I'll just give you that one.
Yeah.
I haven't changed the stars. I added this.
18 stars.
9.
How many O's come out now?
3
3 O's?
9.
9 O's?
No. Then 6.
No, it's 9.
6.
No, what are you saying?
6.
What you say? Wait.
6.
I goes up to 2.
I know it. 6.
You ready?
My dude. 6 zeros.
6 0.
And then 18 eyes. Or whatever. No stars. Wait. Just go. Oh wait. It's not. It's still nine. It's still nine. It's still nine. It's six.
Six. 6, 9.
6.
Run it.
6.
Good. Argument.
Run it.
Run it. Okay.
6. 9. What the hell?
It's 3.
3.
It's 3. What?
Wait.
How?
What?
Q equals 0. I starts at 0.
Oh wait.
So the first time it won't print any.
Oh,
The second time I is 1. Remember, it's always printing up to I.
oh yeah.
Boy,
So-
what did you do?
Oh my god, it's so confusing.
It's the let's bring I up to 7. Okay. So here's what it looked like with 3. What's it going to look like with 7? What'll happen? I changed the loop from I. It used to go up to 3. Now I goes up to 7. Here's what it looked like before. Now what is it going to look like?
I have to make a whole page.
Can we go home now?
So, I mean, look at the pattern. Look at the pattern that comes out, okay? It went up to 3, yes.
So they'll go to 3.
All of the stars eventually have a base with O's.
Yep, all the stars will eventually get replaced with O's. Good. So what it'll look like.
6, 9. What? No.
All but 1, of course.
So that you're okay.
Okay. See, here are the first 3 lines from before. All I did was I made the outer loop bigger, and it continued the whole pattern. Even though the pattern changes each time, it continues that whole pattern. So. Remember. Hey guys. Remember the loop. Any code that happens. Guys. Remember any code between the braces. So this outer brace up here, the I is less than 7. Any code in between this starting brace and this ending brace has to run at least 7 times. Okay? Inside this brace, we have code that'll run starting from 7 and then it'll run 7 times because I starts at 0, then it'll run 6 the next time, then 5 the next time, then 4, and then 3, then 2, and then 1 time. And then down here, once we're done executing the stars, we're going to print out the O's. The O's start from 0 O's and go up to 6, because remember, it's less than I, and I can only go up to 6. Okay? That's why we don't get the 1 star at the end. Down here. If you wanted the star, we could add in an equals. It'll print 1, it'll give us a star, but... Okay? Okay. Let's do... we're gonna do one more on our own, okay? This one will be one to type on your own. Then we're gonna move on. So what? Basically, so this first one will be. I'm gonna give you some number. I'm gonna give you some integer value. I'm gonna make it 10 for here. I want a box. So I want a box of size x by x in stars, okay? So if I give you the number 10, print me out a 10 by 10 box of stars. 10 by 10 box of stars. So if I give you 1, print out a 1 by 1 box of stars.
Hey.
No, we already have mistakes. Let's see.
But I don't know.
Wait, I'm gonna do it. Go back to 8.
I don't know what I'm looking
Can you get the backwards D?
for. What are you talking Don't use the don't use.
Whoever makes the most games.
Here's a bit of a hint. This is how you can get it to print out a new line each time. So
what's the goal again?
I'm going to give you some value x.
Like, can you
I'm gonna give you some number x. I want you to print out a square of stars. That's 10 by 10 then. If x was 3, print out a 3 by 3 grid of stars. If it's 2 by 2, if x is 2, print out a 2 by 2 grid of stars. Okay? So let's see. Start right here. So I'll.
Yes.
You're what? Where did you get IO from? What's it? Fourth grade name? Oh wait,
the IO of x is x.
how old are you? In dog years? What do you mean error? This kid, you're an error. Error occurred. Just edit it.
I'm about 1.5 years. I'm about 1.3 years. I'm 1.2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9.
I appreciate your help. Excuse me? How can you do that? It's cute to let you. We need to teach you the ways. What are you?
Come on. Anyone? X by X grid of stars?
I think you got it, didn't you?
Yeah, I got it. Hold on. All right,
That'll work. Yeah. So what if I change X? What if I change this to like 7? So, I will say, if you have a print at the start, you don't need in the start of the outer loop, right here. You don't need that first one.
Yeah, I know.
So what if
Go back to the original.
So what if I changed it to like 6, and I want a 6 by 6 grid?
Oh, I got it. Well, then you would like it.
I'm giving you a variable already to use. Okay.
I just changed X. You changed X to 6.
Yeah. Now I want a 6 by 6 grid.
I is less than 6, and then I is less than X, and then J is less than X.
Yeah.
Yeah. Triple over here. Target 7. And by n grid.
Do the original. Teach me the ways.
Big hint. If you don't know what you're doing, big hint on the board. Okay. Big hint. You're not sure how to get the. I already gave you the outer loop. Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. A box. It's so beautiful. Okay.
This is also less than X.
Twenty.
What did I put? J. Dab number
No,
2.
we're gonna make up 9.
Dab number 2.
It's so big.
I need your opinions. Which variable is worth or bad?
Straight.
This one? See? Mine is better.
Beautiful lights moving.
What is that?
Anyone else close? So there's only one thing you have to add to this part right here. Okay, the code that's up here. There's only one thing you have to add. You're looking at this expression right here. Okay, you want to add something right on this side. Yes.
I think I did it, but it won't let me run it.
What?
Cancel the other.
No, it isn't work because I can refresh it. But then if I refresh it out, I can't. Just work. I don't know.
No, you didn't.
But like, if I refresh it, I'll just lose all my code. It doesn't let me run it. But if I refresh it, I'll lose all my code.
No, like copy the code.
No. This is expected.
Just hit command this. Command the line. Command C copies all. Thank you.
Oh, probably it just because.
Oh no,
You did it.
this is wrong. This is wrong.
No, not C. V. You may have lost it now.
Oh.
You just copied nothing. So that was copy all your code. Command V is pasted. Yeah. You got it?
Wait, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
It's like not printing the array of stars, it just prints the stars and then it's like this straight line.
Like a straight line.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Wait, my bad. I'll fix it.
Next, like this command C.
Yeah.
Now you get the good. Sorry.
Sure.
Now try. My bad.
See, I told you.
No, we didn't.
I told you could do it.
Okay, yeah, it does. Yeah.
You should be good then with that. Yeah, sorry, that was my bad.
Do you have homework or no?
Homework should be a privilege. We love homework, right, AJ?
Privilege, not a right.
You got it?
It doesn't abuse me.
Okay.
Green Kunt, my friend.
Nice daydreaming.
Oh,
God, yeah.
It's too far. You also have many things to store, right?
You only want the 2.
Oh,
Just this.
Yeah.
In general,
the worst thing that happened.
in general, for this, you can basically delete all the code except for that main and the 2 curly braces at the bottom every time we do one of these. Unless I specifically say you should keep something from last time. Okay. All right. With a couple.
Do you like Filthy Frank?
With a couple minutes. So here we go. Here's our little grid of stars. So if you ever want, this is some good thing to note down. If you ever want a square of something, make the thing you're checking, this little expression right here, I is less than x, and then make it the same on the inner loop, okay? Because that'll mean you want the inner loop and outer loop to execute the same amount of times to get a square, okay? So that's why they're both equal to 0 and they both go up to x. So that's why each of the loops will execute the same amount of times. So to get a 10 by 10 grid, there we go, 10 by 10 little grid. If we wanted a 2 by 2, we can do this. Get a 2 by 2. So we can just change the one number and get any number of stars. So I'm gonna highly recommend everyone go home and at least just experiment a bit. I would take this format right here, since you've already typed it out. And I would mess around with changing the variable, the numbers they start at, and then the numbers they go up to. So on this one, they both go up to x and they both start at 0. Try starting them at like 3 or 4, for example. Make j equal to I instead of just 0 every time. Okay? Kind of see what happens when it does this. So I'm gonna make that the homework because we're gonna move on to some taking input from the console. Okay? For next time. But then, other than that, you're good to go.